Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are happy to have you here this Wednesday afternoon after a nice long day of working with your students. We're glad to have you joining us now. And for those of us joining us on the replay, thank you so much for joining us as well. We're happy to give just a quick overview on getting ready with your smartboard and some of the just smartboard basics that you need to know to be successful in your classroom. My name is John Shoemaker. I'm from the Department of Educational Technology, and I'm just here as kind of the MC today. I'll be introducing our smart trainers here in a second. But before we do, I just want to go over some housekeeping that we always talk about each time. First off, this session is being recorded as always. It is live on YouTube, and it will be back at the same link that you used to get here. That's where the replay will be. We do have some moderators in our chat box over there on the right-hand side. They have a wrench next to their name. And we also have some of our other smart trainers who are in the chat box who also have the wrench next to their name, who will be dropping some information throughout the chat. And that chat is there on the replay. You're not able to chat during the replay, but during the replay, the chat box does have all of the chat that happens. So you will be able to get all the links and information that is being done while we're live as well. If you're new here, you may need to actually create a channel over there before you can start chatting. So just click in the box and just say create channel, and that will allow you to get started with chatting with us. You may have to refresh the stream, but that'll work and you'll be live with us again. Also, we would love to have you subscribe with us. We are so close to 4,000 subscribers. So if you just want to go down below and just click the subscribe button, and while you're down there, feel free to hit that like button, the thumbs up button, because that does help us out with the YouTube algorithm. Believe it or not, our streams have been going quite a bit around the country, especially our more generalized topics. People are seeing us from all over the country. So the more that you like, the more that you subscribe, the more that video gets circulated on YouTube. So thank you all for doing that. And so again, like I said, today we're going to be talking about Ready to Smart, which is getting started doing the basics with your smartboard. And so with that, I'm going to introduce our guest today, which is Akea and Asha, who are our two smart trainers for today. So ladies, I'll let you guys take it away.
Thank you, John, for that wonderful intro. As it was mentioned, my name is Akea Shepard, and I am a smart training specialist dedicated to working with you all here in Palm Beach County, specifically the Boynton Beach area and a little north of that. So I'm excited to be joining you here today. If you would like to contact me, my contact information is on the screen. It's my first and last name at smarttech.com. Also, please follow me on Twitter. It's at MXSmartGirl on Twitter. I love to share up-to-date information, webinars, resources, and I love to follow you all back because I get to see the great work that you all are doing in your classroom. Asha, would you like to introduce yourself?
I sure would. As Akea mentioned, my name is Asha Evans. I too am a training specialist dedicated to working with you all here in Palm Beach County. I mostly service the schools in the Central West Palm area and a little west of that. And if you would like to contact me, I can be reached at ashaevans@smarttech.com. And I'm also on Twitter. My handle is at Get Smart with AE. And I love seeing what teachers are doing in their classrooms. And I also like providing you with updates and tips and tricks that you can use with your panel and the software. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Asha. And as John already mentioned in the chat, you'll find our contact information has been dropped, and you also can ask questions throughout there through our webinar. So, what we have planned today in our agenda, we want you all to learn the features and settings of your Smart Panel and Smart Ink to get you all started. We want to make sure that you leave here with instructional ideas and practical uses for your Smart Panel and Smart Ink. We're going to do that through a demonstration. So you're going to actually see us demonstrate how to use those features and be able to participate in a hands-on experience. And we're going to end out our journey with resources. So we're going to make sure that you have resources that will carry you along your whole smart journey and learning more information as well as recapping what you've learned today. So before we get ready, we want to ask, are you ready to smart? AKA, are you ready to start your smart webinar? So the plan for this webinar already said is that we're going to be hands-on. If you want to be hands-on for this session, there are a couple things that are going to help you do that. One is that you're viewing this webinar from a device other than your smart panel. So maybe you log in on your teacher computer or on a Chromebook and you leave your smart panel alone for right now. Also, are you in school next to your smart panel? That's going to be helpful. And if both of those things are true, you also want to make sure that your smart panel is accessible to you. So all the things you need, such as the power cord, is that pulled out and plugged in? Do you have access to the pins on front and the keyboard? Are you able to power it on? Those are all the types of things that you want to ask yourself to see if you're ready to start. If you're not ready right now, don't worry. This webinar is being recorded, so please stay tuned with us and you can learn, and then you can watch the recording again later on when you have these conditions so that you can practice along with the video. And if you do not have your pens or your power cord and your keyboards, if those things aren't accessible, your school tech should be the person that you can contact to help you out with that. So I'm going to start today by just walking you through what you have. The board that you have is an MX series board, and it has a lot of awesome features. And I'm going to start with just talking about the screen itself. So the screen of your smartboard is a touch screen, and it has multiple touch points. So that means that multiple people can be on the board at once if needed. Also, it has something called object awareness. So that means that you don't have to figure out some settings for the board to know what you want. It's a smart board, so it already knows, and it knows it by your sides. So when you pick up a pen and you write on the screen, it knows that you want to ink. When you use your finger and you tap an object, it knows that your finger is a mouse and that you want to select. And if you touch it with anything larger than a finger, so any large surface area like maybe 2 fingers or your hand, it knows that you want to erase. I mentioned that inking feature. That's something called Smart Ink, which we're going to get into. But included in your smart board is a feature that allows you to write all over your computer, all over your documents, all over websites, and it's really awesome. The next thing that I want to get into are the pens itself. So the pens that I mentioned, if you have them, they're housed right here. They're magnetic. They don't need a battery, so you can just sit them right there and they'll stick. And those are the pens that you're going to use to write. Also, on your smart board, you have buttons on the right hand side. So you have a few physical buttons. You'll find volume control there. You'll find your power buttons. You'll also find some different options for you to switch over to sources, which you'll see the use for that. On the left-hand side, you have ports. So those ports you can use to plug in a USB. You'll notice as you look around and get comfortable with your smart board, there's a few places that you can plug in a USB. This is one. And then if ever you have a guest come to your classroom and they want to plug in, let's say, their personal laptop to the smart board, there's some ports there that will allow them to do that. As far as you using the board and anyone else in the district, you'll notice that you don't need to hook up anything. Your board is set up in a beautiful package where it includes everything that you need, including a district computer, which you'll see. So I set this board is in a package because Palm Beach was very thoughtful in all the accessories that they're including here with the board. So I want to point some of those out. So I mentioned that it comes with a district computer hooked up, and I'll show you that visually in just a moment. But the way that your teacher desktop is hooked up to your projector, instead of hooking up your teacher desktop to the smartboard as well, the district left that computer hooked up to your projector and they gave you a second computer. So now you can do two different things if you want. So if you want to have one thing up on the projector and you want to use your smartboard for something else, you can do that. Some great examples of that I've seen is maybe you're using the smartboard to take notes and you're watching a video on the projector. Just a lot of cool ways that you can use both computers at once. We call that dual displays. And so you have your computer on here. You also have a wireless keyboard to go with your computer. And the wireless keyboard, you don't have to leave it there in that stand. You can pick it up, you can walk around the room, you can use the trackpad to move around and navigate slides or click on different things on the computer. And as I mentioned, this stand here, your smart boards are not mounted on the wall. Instead, it comes with this beautiful height adjustable stand, and it also rolls so you can move it around if you want to find the perfect position in your classroom or if you need to make changes. And the buttons to adjust the height are right here on the left-hand side. The button on top allows you to move your board height up, and the one on bottom allows you to move it down. Uh, Asha, what are some reasons that like a teacher might want to move their board up and down? What are some examples that you've seen in the classrooms as we went around in the prior years? How have you seen teachers use the height adjustable tool?
Well, for the lower grade levels, some teachers like to keep it at a lower height if they're doing carpet time. So that way it's closer to the height of their children. And then also in like middle school and high school, sometimes even in elementary school, the students are taller than the teacher. So the teacher can have it at one height. And if they were having a student interact with the board, they could actually raise it for that student to be at a comfortable height for them.
Yes, awesome. So don't be afraid to adjust the height of your smartboard. You don't have to keep it at one height at all time. You can use those buttons on the left to change it to fit your needs. Also here, we have a microphone that hooks up to your audio system that also can be used as a regular microphone as well, and a webcam. So this webcam up top of your smartboard has many uses, and I'm sure you can already have your wheel spinning of uses right now in distance learning or virtual learning or simultaneous learning. But I want to mention some what used even prior to this in ways that can still be applicable. Excuse me. So right now, the way that the webcam is positioned on the board is tall. It could probably pick up your entire class. So I've seen some awesome classroom to classroom video chats where maybe classrooms from different countries chat with each other, or even grades transitioning. So maybe sixth graders talk with fifth graders, or eighth grade to ninth grade, or even in elementary grade to grade. I've seen awesome ways of doing read alouds where maybe a principal has sat in front of that webcam and read a story to their entire school. I've seen teachers use this to join a Google Meet with a special guest, such as a scientist or an author, and interact with their class. So there are so many awesome uses for this webcam and this entire package that Palm Beach has put together for you. I'm sure the question on everyone's mind also is, how do you clean your smartboard? So I want to talk about that a little bit. Some of the procedures that I want to make sure you're aware of is that you never want to put a liquid directly on the screen. If you're going to use a liquid, you spray it on a cloth and you wipe it. I have a soft microfiber cloth here in front of me, and that's what I like to use to wipe the board. So you want to use a soft cloth like this. And as far as liquid, never use Clorox wipes or ammonia or any bleach. And we have a full procedure available for you on smart.palmbeachschools.org. And we are going to visit that website in just a second, but I will click on this just so that you can get a little glimpse of the procedure. Sorry. And that procedure is a document that in your own time you can read it over and make sure you understand the do's and don'ts and what you can use. And it is available to you anytime. As it's a live doc, it can be updated. So next, let's talk about moving your panel around. I told you with the stand, you have the freedom to adjust the panel to fit your needs. Maybe you need to change the layout of your classroom. So the steps to move your panel around. First, you want to unlock your wheels. So on the stand in the back, you have some wheels there that you can unlock so that you're able to move your stand around. The next thing that you want to do is lower your panel. So your buttons to lower your panel are on the left. And again, we're going to use the button on the bottom to lower it to its lowest position. You also want to unplug your panel and power it off. So we said that our power buttons is on the front of the panel on the right. So we're going to power our panel off and we're going to unplug it if we're moving it for a far distance. So once we unlock the wheels, we've turned everything off, we lowered the panel. If we're going really far, you might even want to secure everything that's housed right here on the front of the panel. So your pens and your keyboard. If you're moving into an elevator, those pens can be the perfect size to roll right in that elevator shaft. So you might want to take those things off and secure it in a bag as you move it around. And then you want to grab yourself and a friend, and on both sides of the panel is a handle. And the panel is large enough so that you all can social distance and still move your panel around. So you want to have two people and you want to slowly move it into its new position. And once it's in its new position, you're just going to go ahead and lock those wheels back. So the motto when you're moving your panel is just low and slow. Make sure it's lowered to its lowest position and you have two people and you're moving it slowly. Some other good to know information is specifically about the district computer that is attached. So I said already that you get a second computer when you get your smart board. So it's a separate computer that you can do different things on, but it's the same type of computer that you're already familiar with. So a lot of the things that I'm going to say, you've probably already heard before. So district devices are set up to have a secure sleep mode. So that means after about 30 minutes of inactivity, it'll automatically sign you out so that anyone can't just walk up to your smart board and access your content. It's really easy to just click and sign back in. After about 60 minutes of inactivity, it's automatically set to save energy and just fall asleep. Again, it's just sleep. All you have to do is go ahead and move your mouse or tap the board and it'll wake back up. Also, though the computer that's on your smart board is a separate device from the computer that's sitting on your teacher desk, they interact with each other because they're district devices. So you might have been told in your past that when you save your work on your computer, that you want to save it in the My Documents folder. And that's because that folder is cloud-based and it moves around with you. So if I'm sitting at my teacher computer and I create a PowerPoint and I save it in My Documents, when I want to go to my smart board, I don't have to email it to myself. I don't have to put it on a flash drive. All I have to do is sign in with my district credentials to the smart board, and all my files in my documents folder will travel over there with me, and I can click on that folder and open up the file from there. So that's an awesome feature. Last thing I want to mention here is there are microphones for the boards that you saw in the previous image, but since the microphones work with your audio systems in your school, this is something that you want to talk with your tech with. It's a campus level part of your smart board. So if you have any questions about those, make sure you reach out to your school tech. Now, we're getting ready to transition to our hands-on portion. So hopefully you've been able to get ready to smart. And we're going to start off by getting to know our smart panel. So here, if you want to get close to moving on to your smart board and viewing this from another device, you can do that. If you're not near your smart board or your smart board isn't set up, or you're watching this webinar from a smart board, please remember that you can stay on with us and continue to learn. And if you want to play this recording later so that you can try these things out at your own pace, that's another great option of a way to learn. So I want to make sure that everyone has their panels plugged in. So there should be one thick cord that comes from the back of your panel that you can plug in. I want to make sure that you're able to locate your pins. If you only have one pin, that's okay for now. So I want to make sure that you have at least one pin because we're about to use those pins to do some inking. I want you to find your keyboard as well and power it on. If you take your keyboard and flip it up, you will notice that there's a power switch on top that you can move back and forth to either red or green. When you're looking at the green, that means that the keyboard is on. You also want to make sure you raise your board to a comfortable height. Remember to do that, you want to make sure that your board is plugged in because the stand runs on electricity. So once your board is plugged in, those buttons on the left-hand side should work for you to raise the panel to a height that's comfortable for you. Use the button on the top to make it higher and use the button on the bottom to lower it. And last but not least, if you haven't done this already, I hope you're ready to power up your panel today. So turn on your panel. If this is your first time, I'm really excited for you. To hit that power button, look on the bottom right-hand corner of your smart board. That's where you're going to find all your physical buttons. And depending on the type of panel you have, it might be your first button, it might be your last button, but it looks like a traditional power button, which is like a circle with the line in the middle. And once you've done all of those things, you have accomplished the step of getting to know your smart panel. Now, in just a second, instead of looking at my screen, you're going to see one of our smart trainers, Asha, model how to get comfortable and learn about other components of your panel. But first, I want to make sure we're all on the same page, literally, so that you know what Asha's talking about and you're able to follow along if that's your wishes. So the screen that we're all going to start off on is the smart board's home. And you know that you're on the smart board's home because you'll see an option that says whiteboard. All right. So if you're seeing that district logo or things like that, that's not the screen we're on. We're trying to get to the smart board home. And your background may be different than what we see here. But if you see the whiteboard option, then you are in the correct place. If you're not here, let me teach you really quickly how to get here. I said earlier that depending on the version of smartboard that you have, your buttons may differ. So I have the buttons enlarged here on the screen for both versions. If you have a V2 smart panel, your first button is in house. So you'll see a symbol that looks like a house and it'll say home, and you can press this button and it'll take you straight to your smartboard's home. So if your first button is a house, just select the house and it'll take you to the right screen where you should see the option for the whiteboard. If your first button is not in house, instead you're going to press your second button, which is a source button that has an arrow as a symbol. And you also probably see a dot there to remind you that that's an important button. You're going to press your source button and you're going to choose OPS to get you here to this screen. So once everyone's here, we're going to go ahead and kick it off to Asha so that she can show us how we can use this whiteboard and some of its great functions.
Thank you, Akea. So as Akea mentioned, for you to get here to the home screen of your panel, you want to either press the home button if you have a version 2 panel, or press the source button with the blue dot and select OPS if you have a version 1 panel. Once you are on this home screen, you'll see that you have the option to use the digital whiteboard. For you to get started in whiteboard, you just click where it says whiteboard. Now that I've selected where it says whiteboard, I am able to select different backgrounds. So down at the bottom, I can continue to have this plain canvas, or I can actually add grid paper as a background, line paper as a background. There's even a dotted background option and a high contrast option. I'm going to go ahead and select the line paper. And now that I've selected the line paper as my background, it has appeared here on my whiteboard for me to write on. Now you might be wondering, how do I write on this whiteboard? The answer is with your pen. So similar to how you use your dry erase markers to write on your traditional whiteboard, you would use your smart pen to write on your smart whiteboard. So with my pen, I can just take it and start writing right here on the screen. And right now my ink is red. However, it is possible for me to change the color of my ink. I can also change the thickness of my ink. In order for me to do both of those things, I'm going to go over here to the left side of my screen where I see a pen or pencil icon. And when I click on it, I see that it expands. Now in its expanded form, I see there are a few different color options here, but wait, there's more. If I press the ellipses, it actually opens up an entire color wheel. So you have quite an abundance of options for you when you're writing with your smart pen. I'm going to go ahead and stick with this red ink, but I do want to change the thickness. And for those of you that are teaching virtually and embracing this blended classroom or blended learning environment, this is an option for you to help your students see a little easier. If you make your ink thicker and you use a darker color ink, it appears better on camera. So now that I've thickened my ink, you can probably see that I wrote hello a little clearer. Back to the pencil icon. In addition to being able to change the color of your ink and change the thickness of your ink, you also have a highlighting tool available to you. So right next to the pen icon, there's a little highlighter. And that highlighter allows you to select from 4 different colors to go ahead and highlight over your screen. So now I can highlight what I've written here on my whiteboard. Now, I have all of this ink here. You might be wondering, how do I erase this? Akea mentioned it earlier when she was going over the components of your panel. You're able to erase with your fist. So I'm just going to take my fist and erase. You can also erase with a large surface area. So if I take my microfiber cloth, I can also use that to clean off my markings. This digital whiteboarding space is really great for teachers. You can use it to create your anchor charts. You can also use it when you're doing your bell ringers. Akea, what are some other uses you can think of for teachers using this whiteboarding space?
So I first would think of it in any way that you would use a traditional whiteboard, you can use this, but you'll see it is a digital whiteboard. It has a few extra features to it. So anything that you do traditionally plus more. I love to do my bell ringers here on this whiteboard because you'll see that there's more space if I needed it. I also love to do to work out problems for those impromptu questions where my students need to see visually how to solve something, or I need to explain visually in a graphic organizer a concept. So any, planned moment or teachable moments, I find the whiteboard to be great to use.
Awesome. So with what you write on your whiteboard, you are not only able to erase it, but you can also select it. So if you wanted to move it around, you have the ability to do so. To select it, you simply just take your finger and tap it. So I've selected the word good. And now that I've selected it, I can move it around. I can also rotate it and resize it. Now let's say I wanted to select the word good and the word good morning, or sorry, I wanted to select the word good and the word morning. There is actually an option for you to do a multi-select. In order for you to multi-select, right underneath your pencil icon on the left-hand side, there is a dotted rectangle. And when you click on that rectangle, it allows you to multi-select by dragging an L around whatever it is that you want to capture. So since I wanted to capture good and morning, I drew my L around those two words. Let me show you again. So to multi-select, you click the dashed rectangle right underneath the pencil icon. Once it's selected, you just take your finger and draw an L around whatever it is that you want to capture. And now that it's captured, you can rotate those objects together. You can also delete those objects by clicking on the drop-down arrow in the top right-hand corner. And now it's all gone. So some pretty neat things you can do here with your whiteboard. There are tons more for you to explore. I've shown you how to write on here, how to erase, how to highlight, how to select, and how to multi-select. And what's really cool about your whiteboard is that it automatically saves whatever you do. So we mentioned using it to create anchor charts or using it to create bell ringers. It saves whatever you write here. So if I press this back arrow in the top left-hand corner, it takes me back to my home screen. And from this home screen, I can see the session that I was just working on. So if I wanted to get back to that session, I would just click in and pick up where I left off. Or if I wanted to start with a brand new canvas, I could just click whiteboard. And now I'm starting from scratch. So again, when you are in a whiteboarding space, if you decide you want to get back to your home screen, you can just press the arrow in the top left-hand corner. Or for those of you on version 2 panels, you can press the home button. And that home button takes you back to your home screen. The cool thing about the setup that you all have in Palm Beach County is that you don't just have a smart panel, you also have a PC attached to the back.
So Asha, before we move on to the PC, I want to talk about one of the features that you showed, and it's the instructional use. So I said you can use this just like you would a regular whiteboard, but it is a virtual whiteboard, so it has some extras. On my regular whiteboard, I cannot select my writing and move it around. So I imagine that could be really cool for a lot of reasons. Maybe I'm an elementary math teacher and we're doing a subtraction problem and we want to draw it out with pictures and explain, that we're taking away 4 cookies from John and we're moving them over here. We can actually touch those cookies and move them over. As a former science teacher, I can model things and, kind of create animations by moving my objects around with my finger. Or even someone working in ELA, maybe you have words and you move them around to fit certain lines. So just having those moving objects is really awesome. And not only can you move the objects, can you just show one last thing before we get off of the whiteboard? How do you move the screen? What happens if I run out of space?
Oh, but you don't run out of space here on this digital whiteboard. With this digital whiteboard, if you need more space, all you have to do is take your finger and start scrolling. So you can see here, now that I've started to scroll with my finger, there's a little gray rectangle that appears in the bottom center of my screen. And that shows me where I'm working on the whiteboard, but it also shows me the additional space that I have available. So I can scroll to the bottom, I can scroll to the right, I can scroll to the left. I can just have a scrolling good time on this whiteboard and not worry about running out of space.
Thank you, Asha, for sharing us that last cool feature. As has already been mentioned, there's a lot more for you to explore on your whiteboard. For that last feature, imagine being an elementary school teacher and you have multiple topics or content area you're covering throughout the day. Each box could be a different content area, and you have everything all there on one whiteboard. As a secondary teacher, I would always write a bell ringer and then solve it with one period and forget to erase it from my actual whiteboard. So this might be a great way for you to just move it over and it appears like it's blank, but you have everything already set up. A lot of cool instructional uses for those features. So I hope you have fun exploring how to use the whiteboard. We're going to go ahead and transition back to our presentation really quickly so that you can see how to get onto the computer. After we look at it on my screen, we're going to go back to Asha and she's going to show you. But so if you think about the smart board like you would maybe your home television, where you might have multiple things hooked up to your television, such as a cable box, a DVD player, or a game system. You have multiple things hooked up, but you could only view one at once. And to choose what you want to view, you use that source button. So your smartboard is working the same way. Right now, when we're on the whiteboard, we're on the smartboard's home. But there is another attachment or there's another thing hooked up, and that's your district computer. And to switch over to your district computer, you're going to locate the computer, which is on the back of your panel. So when I say on the back, my best description of how to find it is you step over to the side where your physical buttons are on your smartboard. That's your right side. And then you just peek your head around. So don't stand all the way behind it. Just peek your head around and you'll see a big black box, which I'm going to circle here on the screen for you, to the right, and you'll notice that in that black box there's a computer sitting in there like a bookshelf. It's a Dell computer and the power button is right on top. It looks just like any other power button that you've seen. You just have to find it and you press that power button and you'll see it light up. Your next step is you're going to change your source. Your source button, again, is one of those physical buttons on the front right of your screen. And for everyone, it doesn't matter which type of panel you have, your source button is the second button. And it looks like an arrow with a box around it. Excuse me. We've also put a pin marker there or a permanent marker dot there to remind you, hey, don't be afraid to press this button. This is probably the button that you're looking for. So you press your source button, and this is where it changes a little bit depending on the type of panel you have. If you have a V1 panel, when you press your source button, you'll see a list that says OPS, HDMI 1, HDMI 2, and you're going to select most likely HDMI 1. Okay, so the one that is blue and highlighted, that is what you're going to select. And then if you're using a version 2 panel, when you press your source button, instead of seeing a list, you probably see 4 big boxes on your screen, and those are previews of what's hooked up. And it might look black, it might look blue. It depends on what your computer is doing, if it's waking up. But again, most likely in HDMI 1, you'll see a preview of your computer and you just select it. Our goal is for everyone to get to the screen that looks just like a giant version of your teacher desktop, where you see the district logo and you'll see the option to sign in. I'm going to explain to you as well what happens when you get to this screen, and then I'll just pause for a moment to make sure that everyone's able to follow along. And again, if you're not next to your panel right now, you always have the option to watch this recording and do it at your own pace to practice. Once you press the source button and it takes you to your district computer, you're at a screen that has the district logo and a blue screen and the time. To get past the screen so that you can enter your login credentials, you can use the wireless keyboard. Okay, make sure that it's on, and you can press enter, you can press space, and it'll move you past the screen. Or if you want to have some fun, you can swipe your board. So use the touch screen on the board and with your hand swipe up, very dramatic like Vanna White, and it also will take you to the next screen where you'll be able to select other user and sign in using your district credentials. So while everyone's signing in, Asha, um, can you tell me why would a teacher want to go from the whiteboard to the computer?
I sure can. When we were on the whiteboard side, we were just using the smart panel portion of the setup. But when you transition over to the computer, you're using the computer, and with the computer comes access to the internet. We all love the internet, especially in this day and age. And so with the internet, you can access, Google Meet, Google Classroom, you can get on YouTube. And not only can you access the internet, but you can access any files that you have saved in your documents. So Akea mentioned earlier in the session that when you're on your teacher desktop, you're usually recommended to save your files in your documents. And if you have them saved in your documents, once you get signed into the computer side of the panel, you are able to pull those documents up right here on your smartboard. In addition to, I mentioned Google Meet, I mentioned Google Classroom, you can also access your Google Drive. So pretty much everything you can do from your teacher desktop, you can do here from your smart panel when you're on the computer side.
Awesome. Is there an added bonus when you're on your smart board? I heard something about being able to write on your computer when you have a smart panel. So can you show us a little bit about that,
Ooh.
Asha?
We're ready to write now. All right, so hopefully you're signed into your computers by now. And once you are signed in, like Akea mentioned, a big bonus you have here on the Smart Panel is that you can actually write. And to write, you use something called Smart Ink. So right now I'm here on the computer side of my panel, and I'm just going to take my pen, and with my pen, I'm able to write right here on my desktop. When you write on your desktop, this little sticky note appears, and the more you write, the larger the sticky note gets. So it expands as you go along. Now, in addition to being able to write on your desktop, Smart Ink also allows you to annotate over websites, PDFs, videos, and when you are using Smart Ink, I'll minimize this just for a second so that it's easier for you to see. When you are using Smart Ink, there is a little pen icon that appears on your screen. Sometimes it likes to hide over on the left side of the screen and you have to look a little harder for it. But once you find it, all you need to do is click on it. And once you click on it, it expands. And with it expanded, you're able to see that there are 3 sections on your Smart Ink dynamic toolbar icon, with one of those sections being for pens. So right now I'm in the pen section, and with my pen section, I'm able to change the color of my ink. I have 4 basic inking options here, but if I click the color tiles, there's that color wheel again. So I have a ton of options to choose from. And then similar to what you had on whiteboard, you can also select a highlighter. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the internet so I can showcase these features a little better. And this is just an article that I pulled up on ReadWorks. And so here with my highlighter, I can highlight some of the content in the passage. And then if I wanted to annotate something in the margin, I could use my pen here to write or really mark up my text. And if you click on the ellipses here in the top right-hand corner, it brings up a ton of inking options for you. So far I've shown you the pen and highlighter. I'm not going to show you every single pen that we have here, but an absolute favorite of mine and most of my team's is the Magic Pen. Magic Pen is a lot of fun. It is quite a magical experience when you're using it. It has 3 functions, and one of those functions is disappearing ink. So I really like writing the word hello. And when you use Magic Ink, after a few seconds, that ink actually disappears from your screen. So if you wanted to have a secret word of the day, or you wanted to make sure your students were paying attention, or maybe you just were writing information on the screen that you didn't want to have to worry about erasing, Magic Pen would be a great tool for you to use. In addition to disappearing ink, Magic Pen also allows you to magnify content on the screen. So if you needed to zoom in on something, you would just draw a rectangle or a square around the area. And once you have that area magnified, you're able to move it around by just grabbing in the grayed area. So you see I'm able to move around my magnification. And then this little magnifying glass underneath actually allows you to zoom in a little more. The last feature of Magic Pen that I want to showcase is the spotlighting feature. And to activate that, you simply draw a circle or an oval, and that will spotlight what you have on the screen. So this is really neat if you only want the students to zoom in and focus on a particular part of the screen. And similar to the magnification feature, you are able to move this around just by grabbing in this darkened area. And what I didn't show you with magnification that you can also do with Spotlight is that you can actually adjust the size. So if I just grab the edges here, it actually allows me to expand or resize what I have spotlighted. So that's your Magic Pen. I'm going to go ahead and click back on my icon here and show you one other neat thing that you have as part of Smart Ink. And to get to that neat piece, I'm going to click on this little case here. That's your toolbox. In your toolbox, you have quite a few tools available to you. I'm going to showcase this one here. It kind of looks like the screen that you pull down for your projector. I'm wondering if you can guess what it's used for. This is used for covering up the screen. So this is called our screen shade. And with screen shade, it allows you to hide what you have on your screen. But what's really neat about it is that you can actually reveal from the top, the bottom, the left, or the right. So let's say I was reading this passage with my students and I wanted to make sure that they weren't able to read ahead of me, like I really wanted to chunk the text out for them. I could use screen shade here, and as we're going through the text, I'll just reveal more and more of the passage. As I mentioned, you can also reveal from the bottom, the left, and the right, and it's a similar motion. You just grab those areas and move it on over. Something really fun about screen shade, you can tap the center and change the color to make it a little more exciting.
That's our nice little Easter egg with screen shade that you could tap the center and get different colors. So thank you, Asha, so much for modeling the cool experiences and things that you could do on the Smart Panel to get started, from the whiteboard to Smart Ink. As you join me back on our presentation, I do want to mention a couple caveats about Smart Ink. One, it's possible that you weren't able to join us in modeling that, because if this is your first time turning on your panel, the Smart Ink is a software, so it might take a couple days to install. So if you pick up your pen and you go to write on your desktop and your pen is acting more like a stylus and no ink is coming out, don't worry, just give it a couple of days, restart your computer, and just leave it on for a couple days, and eventually you'll have Smart Ink and you'll know it, because when you go to pick up your pen, ink will come out. You'll see that beautiful menu here with the pen in the center where you can tap and explore. Again, we didn't cover everything here, but Smart Ink is one feature of our software that you just don't be afraid of it. Click on it and you'll find a lot of cool options. A lot of them are self-explanatory. So also, before we leave today, I want to make sure that you're aware of our one-stop shop for everything smart in this school district. Smart is international, and if you Google Smart, you can find a lot of information. But if you're looking for information that's specific to you all in Palm Beach, which is what I will look for because you guys have this special Smartboard package, you can go to the website smart.palmbeachschools.org. And I hope you heard that. It should be easy to remember because it's palmbeachschools.org, just with the word smart in front of it. So for all your questions, all your needs, contacts, everything, go to smart.palmbeachschools.org. And I'll spend a couple minutes just walking you through some of my favorite points on the website. So I'm going to switch tabs and take you to our home screen of the smart.palmbeachschools.org website. So on the home screen, you can find a news clip of the penny tax that funded this project here in Palm Beach County. Under the training tab, you can find information about training, and you also could find information about an online course that you can take called the Smart Digital Educator Online Training, which is self-paced and it gives you a large overview of everything you could do with your smart panel, from the ink to the hardware to some software components that we have. So it gives you a lot of information and you can start and stop as you see fit. And when you complete this course, you get a badge that you can attach to your email as well as a certificate. Under getting started, I definitely recommend that everyone that's new to Smart, you come to this tab. Under getting started, we have a lot of resources, such as a getting started video that you can watch. It's about 5 minutes. It'll give you the full details of everything you need to know to get started. We have a link to the cleaning procedure that I showed you earlier, so you can read that and get the details on the full cleaning procedure. Also, as you were exploring your smart board, if you went to the back of your smart board, you might have noticed there's a laminated printout there called your Quick Start Guide that summarizes everything you've seen in the video so you can have it handy. And that's also available for you digitally here. Next, let's move on to our resources. Under the resource tab, we have a lot of materials for you, materials on different parts of the Smart Suite. Also, materials based off of your preference. If you like videos, we have some video playlists up top. These video playlists are chunked out to be about just one component and just multiple videos going further and further into details. Also, as we scroll down, we have more resources. I'm going to point out one of my favorites for teachers as you're getting started, and that is the Smart Teacher Guide. Again, I'm on smart.palmbeachschools.org, and I'm just under the resource tab where I am now. Can click from here to go to the teacher guide. The teacher guide is one of my favorite resources for teachers because it's very common for someone to ask, Akea, where can I just find a manual? Where are the steps to everything that you're saying? And your teacher guide does that. And it takes it a step further by even giving you instructional ideas for each component. So if you're someone that likes to do things step by step and you also want to challenge yourself and build your knowledge, the teacher guide will help you do that because it covers everything. So you can just try a new page every week or every month, or try it with your teacher group or with a peer teacher. So I'm just going to scroll down to show you an example of a page, such as the Smart Ink page. Again, it's just one component, one topic, Smart Ink. A photo to familiarize you with that topic, steps, instructional ideas, and a video. So again, that teacher guide has everything that you need. Under FAQ, you're going to find just that, frequently asked questions. So there's FAQs for teachers here, for techs, for principals. But what I really want to point out is the Google Currents community. Google's Current. Google Currents is a social media community within Google and within the school district's domain where you can join different communities and you can write posts, you can see posts, you can like them, you can comment on them. And we have two communities for teachers in the school district using their smart panel. We have a help community and an ideas community. So if you come here and click here, you can learn all about the communities and how to join. And last but not least, we have our contacts. Under the contacts, you can find EdTech contact information as well as Smart Tech contact information. So you have a training specialist dedicated to your school. If you know that training specialist, you can find their information here. If you're not sure who your trainer is, you can just click here to find your training specialist by searching your school's name. So now that you have all of that information to get you started, also I'm going to make sure in the chat that you have the links that you need. So the resources that we have today are a link directly to that one-stop shop that we mentioned. Also a video to teach you how to join Google Currents because it's an awesome resource, also community to be a part of. a link to the EdTech training website where you will find a wealth of resources related to all things EdTech and best practices with technology implementation, as well as a video on Smart Ink. So I'm hoping now that your ready to smart question mark has now turned to ready smart exclamation point and you are feeling ready. So if you're ready, I want you to use your whiteboard or your smart ink during instruction sometime soon. Take a picture of your work and share it with us. You can share it with us on Google Currents. You can share it with us on Twitter using any of our handles or hashtags that you see here on the screen at PBCSD, at SmartPLN, the hashtag Smart Champion. Also, I know the EdTech department has their own handle as well, and hashtag, I'm sure they're going to drop that in the chat. So we love to see the great things that you've been able to accomplish after attending this webinar. And hopefully also you're able to join us next week for a webinar that goes into detail about how do you use your smart panel for blended learning? How can you make sure that your students that are in front of you and at home are able to see the instruction? And John, I don't know if there were any questions that you want us to answer out loud, but if not, I'm done. Again, thank you so much for having us here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Akea. No questions that I saw. I think most of them got answered. So I'll finish up here and then let you ladies have the last word for everyone. So
all right, thank you
for everything. As Akea mentioned, we are also on Twitter, so we would love to have you tag us as well in all of your tweets. This year, we've kind of for the fall just kind of gone with the whole hashtag ETPBCPD. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, ETPBCPD. But then also we would love you to have you tag our EdTech account as well, which is at EdTechPBC. Those are both of the ways you can get a hold of the EdTech team on Twitter. So we would love to connect with you guys there, follow us, and we try to share everything that we're doing in the district right now. I just have one quick thing before we do go, and I just want to share that the EdTech team is continuing to do office hours this year. So every Tuesday right now from 2:30 to 3:30, we will be having office hours, which means you guys can come in at any time between 2:30 and 3:30 and just ask your question. There'll be a group of EdTech people there. We usually have one of our smart trainers there so that you can ask a question of them. And we also have some people that just come and listen and gain news. So all of those links are actually going to be located on our website, which is edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org. And if you scroll down just a little bit, there's a calendar with all of the information. That's also where we have all of our upcoming live streams listed as well. Everything is there on that main page of our website, edtechtraining.palmbeachschools.org. So check it out. You can also add that calendar to your own calendar so you can see what's coming up as well. Next week, we're going to start doing live streams every Wednesday and Thursday at from 3 to 4. And we're just going to keep adjusting until we find a good time for everyone. We started during the day trying to do some lunch and learns, but we feel like that didn't work out as well. So that's why we tried this 3:30 slot now. So that's where, or the 3 to 4 slot. So that's what we'll be starting for live streams next Wednesday, Thursday. So EdTech has something for you every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday afternoons. So we're all here to support you in any way we can. So on behalf of the entire EdTech training team and our entire team in general, I want to thank you guys for joining us today. I'm going to bring back Asha and Akea to give you guys the last words, and then we'll send everyone away for today. Go ahead, ladies.
I'd just like to echo what John said. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are here to support you as you put into action the things that you learned today. If you have questions, please reach out to your smart trainer. Remember, if you don't know who your smart trainer is, smart.palmbeachschools.org will give you all of that information.
And like Akea and John mentioned, thank you all for being here. I hope after today's session, you're a little more ready to smart with your panel. And like Akea said, if you have any questions or need assistance with anything, feel free to reach out to us.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.